Thank you so much for coming to check out another episode of the StashCast, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people focused on the world of commercial real estate and prop tech. The StashCast is brought to you by Needle. What if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? You can with Needle. Come check it out at Needle, NEDL.us to learn more. All right, today I'm super excited. I've got Brandon Hatton of Conscious Wealth here with us today. And Brandon, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, thanks
Uh,
for having. Yeah.
so we were talking a little bit before we got rolling. I've had a chance to listen to most of your book. I haven't gotten all the way through it just because my life is in chaos right now. I feel like, but for the folks at home, why don't you start off? Tell us who you are and what you do and how you got to where you're at.
So I work at this really interesting intersection of investment management and family dynamics or family facilitation. And so it's neat to be able to, it's a funny situation where I was born the fourth in a family. We had four kids in a row, which was like 4 kids in 4 years, which is a pretty Catholic thing to do
Yeah.
early in the 80s. And I was always like the unofficial self-appointed peacekeeper. Nobody asked me to do it. I'm not even sure it was needed, but that's what I did. And then I found out years and years later, I got into investment management as a financial advisor. And then it's just interesting to see, oh, now here I am back again, and merge this field where we're just helping families have really difficult conversations.
Mhm.
And those difficult conversations can be spurred by a death or sickness or just inheritance in general, sale of a business, sale of property. So they have this impetus, but they're always like also rooted in money. And so we do. Our firm's called Conscious Wealth. And I guess I've been doing this since 2009. Yeah, since the depths of the recession.
So I listened to your book and I'm familiar generally with your story, but you didn't take a traditional approach to getting into wealth management. You went, you were a teacher abroad for many years, and then you had a photography practice. Talk about maybe some of that journey, because I think that's fascinating and it gave you a different perspective than maybe just somebody who came out of school. And then you willed yourself into this career, right? I just straight willed myself into what I'm doing for better or
No, that
worse.
was
You took a
yeah.
circuitous route. So
No, it's really good. So kind of the way that I think of it now, and this is only like in hindsight, is like when I was growing up, money was always just above me. I always felt like we were poor as a kid. Found out after writing my book that may not have been the case, but it doesn't really matter what is factual when growing up. What matters is how you are as a kid and you see it. And money always just seemed like out of reach. I went into college with a declared degree of accounting, and I was going to go into business and make a bunch of money. And that was the only purpose in life. And then, as I mentioned in the book, there was a shift in my life. So my brother took his life when I was 20, he was 21. And I just started to question everything. And one of the things I questioned was like, what am I really here for? And I dropped out of business school and became a teacher or started studying to be an educator, history teaching, because it was really like, I was like, I don't really know what I could teach, but I guess I can learn history. And it's like when I was a teacher, and I traveled the world doing it, which was wonderful. I went to Egypt and I taught in Lebanon, I taught in Brazil. It shifted. I was above money. I felt, oh, I don't really need money. I'm just going to help people. I was very idealistic, oftentimes pompous, but it was like I was shifting between them. And then one day I woke up and I realized a lot of things got me to this point, but it was like, oh, I don't really have a career anymore. After I quit teaching, I opened up a photography business just 'cause I was like, why not? And I really wanted a career and I wanted financial security. And a lot of friends were really disappointed when I took this route. They're like, oh, you were this bohemian traveler. And I was like, you loved my life vicariously, but you didn't actually enjoy it. And I was enjoying it, but it ran its course. I'd been out of the country for over a decade, just traveling and seeing the world and teaching and taking photos. So then I threw myself into wealth management and I worked at one of the big brokerage houses where they're just hammering you all the time, like, "Oh, and I lost myself, but I lost myself. As you said, I willed myself like from this place of scarcity, this desire to make so much money. I just completely lost myself in this business. And now I'm like really working on finding this balance between not being above money or below money, but realizing that it comes through me. And when I allow it to come through me and not hold on to it too tightly, I make more than I need. I serve families and these are really good days. Yeah. Is that what we're talking on, or did I hit that? Sorry, I
No,
forgot
I
how.
think that's great. Yeah. When we had our pre-show call, I was like, oh, we're going to have a good conversation. So no, and what's interesting is that your practice and mine, we're talking to a lot of the same people, either directly or indirectly. Mine, referring to my commercial real estate brokerage practice. And both of those you touched on it. There's inheritance issues. I've had friends and partners go through that where there's been a death in the family, and uh, now how do we divvy up the assets, and how do they deal with each other in doing that? And it can get a little bit ugly at times. And then what is the point of all of this? Why are we doing all of this? And I think that in your book, you touch on that. The purpose of what was it? The purpose of wealth management for you is to certainly grow it, but not to be in a place of fear or abundance. And I found in my own career that sometimes it's a groove that you can get into, but sometimes you get out of it, and it's sometimes hard to get back into it. So I identify with what you're saying about when you're just in that, when you can just live in that groove, things are pretty good, pretty easy.
Yeah. And you can get, so I think you're calling it the groove, and I would call it like this kind of state of abundance, this feeling like I'm making enough right now. I have everything that I need. And if I don't have something right now, there's a reason for it. There's a lesson for me to learn of not having it. And that when I'm ready for it, it'll show up. And you can say that about finding your next office. If I were looking, I actually am looking for an office in the city of Atlanta. I haven't found it yet. Well, it's going to show up when we need it. And in the meantime, we're just going to rent. But you could say that about the money you need to retire. So many things. But then it's easy to get knocked out of that, especially us. We're working with something as volatile as the stock market every day. And so I talk about these esoteric ideas, but we're really grounded in owning companies and owning real estate and owning fixed income bonds and knowing what we own and why we own it and where is their price at. And so these two pushing, pulling factors allow us to stay balanced. But it's a challenge too. It's a good challenge. I'll take it.
So how do you help your clients escape the trap of I need more, or I don't have enough, or how do you help them analyze what they do at maybe a new client or established existing clients? How do you help them avoid that? The fear. It's a fear mindset. It's what it is, really.
Yeah. How do we help our clients escape this trap that I need more? I don't know if I exactly look at it that way. That's why I'm struggling answering the question. There is the hedonic treadmill, right? This idea that once you get something, you want more and it's never enough. And so I don't know if I think what we're really, so we're not really I think that's partly what their personal journey
Mhm.
on where they are on that, right? So we talk about whether they're living in an abundant mindset or scarce mindset. What we don't want to do is add fuel to the fire, right? So one thing we do as a firm is we decided we're not going to market or talk to clients in a way of fear. And that may seem like, oh yeah, of course. But no, you look at any other major firm and they have advertisements, big banks, like when was the best day to start investing with name of firm with three dead guys named after it is like yesterday. And so they're constantly creating a feeling that somebody's missing out. And that's the value proposition. That's how they hook people in. We just decided we're not going to do that. The other thing we're going to do to be able to cultivate a place for people to decide where they are on that spectrum and how they want to live their life is we're not going to invest in a way that takes them away from their money or separate them from a money. We're going to invest in a way that cultivates abundance. We're going to show them they should be able to open up their statements and say, oh, I own, example, not a recommendation, Google. I know what this company is. I know where it's at. I know where it'll be at. So instead of filling up a balance sheet, sometimes people open up their statements and they're like, oh, here's a bunch of products and I don't really know what this product is. I don't know how much leverage is in it. I'm not even sure exactly what leverage is. Is it good? Is it bad? And so you've created all of these situations where we elevate ourselves as an expert by creating complexity that's not needed. And we believe that we can be experts without complexity. And we also believe that creating a sense of safety and security for our clients in a sense of transparency will not only make them more loyal clients, also help them be more, uh, make them more like to cultivate what they need in the world. And to, sometimes that is to want less, but sometimes with their kids, it may be more. Where are they on this spectrum? And some like scarcity is a very valuable tool. It drives, it's a tool for creating something. And so we're going to let them decide where they need to be, but we're not going to fuel the fire of scarcity to gain them or keep or maintain them.
So let's maybe would be helpful, certainly for me, probably. Who is either your ideal client that you're going out looking for, or maybe you could describe your average or the types of people you're working with? Are they, we touched on it a little bit, but are they business owners? Are they maybe patriarchs or matriarchs of a family that have
Mm.
had generational wealth, or are they tech founders or real estate people that have recently come up? Similar to your story, maybe where they didn't grow up with a lot and then now they found themselves with this abundance.
Yeah. The interesting thing about I remember coming up at Merrill Lynch, and if anyone ever told you, as like anyone in the office ever said, I liked your clients, it was always a compliment because that means they like you because you're going to attract clients much like yourself.
Mhm.
And so our clients are entrepreneurial. Some of them work in Fortune 500 companies at the executive vice president level or something like that, but they're at that high enough level within a big company that they can have this entrepreneur spirit and build and design. But some of them are business owners coming through a business exit. That's one major group. Something I would say they all have in common. And then oftentimes it is a multi-generational family, and there's one person in the family that says, something isn't right here. Let's call in this group. Let's call in this group of facilitators and see how we can figure out what's not working. It might be somebody in next generation, like maybe somebody in their 20s is expecting an inheritance, but doesn't really know what the inheritance looks like and wants to know more. Or it might be somebody in the older generation, the first generation, saying, I don't really know how to talk to my kids about money, and I know I need to, and they might call us in.
Mhm.
But what our ideally the situation is, our family facilitation, the conversations we're having with families is so seamless into our wealth management that it feels one and the same. Our first engagement, or not our first engagement, but an early engagement is talking to every family member and saying, if we all work together, what are some of the things you want to know? What are some of the things you want to learn from other family members? How are some ways you want to contribute to the family? How do you want the family to contribute to your future? So we get a really good feeling for everybody, and we get a buy-in so that when we're over the years, we're building a wealth management. It's not just looking at financial wealth. It's looking at their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, and their family's health as a unit.
You've got the deck of cards that you
Mhm.
sent me a couple of these, and I handed some out to my colleagues, and I kept
Oh,
collecting
great. Thank
some.
you.
Um,
Yeah, thanks.
I've got them here. Do you actively use these in those initial conversations, or do you say, "Hey guys, here's these. Why don't you have a glass of wine and talk through some of these, or maybe don't have one? I don't know. Have your beverage of choice."
Yeah. Yeah. No, so the cards, all of the questions come up in the all like the question, we do not actively use them in our discovery sessions. It's the latter. We say, take these home, start using them, use them around the dinner table, use them with your business colleagues. But the questions all come up. The biggest question is, in one way or another, we always want to know what's somebody's first memory about money. Like,
Yeah,
what's
that's the first question.
that's the first question. Stash, what was your first memory about money?
I think you and I are similar in that I never felt that. Actually, my mom's family is from Santa Barbara. And I remember being a little kid at my grandparents' house, and they didn't have an extravagant house or cars or anything like that, but it just felt really nice. And I was like, man, this is great. And weather's perfect there. They had a beautiful home. I was like, yeah, this is what life is. And then we ended up in New Hampshire, the cold and snow, and it was a very different life. And I was like, wait, no. And so I spent a lot of my youth idealizing what I perceived as that lifestyle there in Southern California. I, in fact, went back there. I was like, that's what I want to do. So my goal was to be in commercial real estate in Southern California. And I technically achieved it. I just got my license in February of '08, which was a terrible time to try and start a career in commercial real estate. So it was that. And then fast forward, my mom had built a practice, a real estate practice, but then she passed when I was 14. And it took our family trajectory from one of kind of abundance and we were living comfortably to my dad did the best that he could, but he was not, he was, he was a contractor, and not to diminish his intellect at all. He's a very smart man, but just it's tough to make the same level of income when you're basically a sole proprietor, sole practitioner as somebody who's living on commission income and closing many deals. So actually, those are my personal foundations. And then I think associated with that, with my mom in particular, losing her, there's a lot of fear that is wrapped in around that.
Yeah.
We got that going for us. Or I do.
No, I thank you. That's why we asked that question, is because I know more about you than I knew 2 minutes ago. And if I didn't ask that question, I wouldn't know any of that about you.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean anything in the sense that like how you have to be or how I can't make any assumptions. Therefore, you're going to be this way. Uh, but it's good to have it. And you just never know what anyone's been through ever. And so, yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Well, um, thinking about and listening to your book, I was thinking a lot about my experience with my retirement accounts and my people that I've worked with. And it seems though I've had the treatment predominantly of, hey, we're going to do all these great things for you on the front end, bring in your business. And then you never hear from them again. And I'll leave those folks unnamed. And I've switched a couple of times, hoping to find somebody who's going to take a more proactive approach. And each time, oh yeah, definitely. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it doesn't, it fails. Like, how do you avoid that in practice? Because it seems like you guys take a practice. I was listening this morning to you're talking about a guy he had that kind of fear mindset and said, oh, I don't have enough. And he's got 10 million in assets. He's got 400 different positions or something. So he couldn't figure out
Oh,
how he was
yeah.
doing it.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's tough to make sense of it. Sounds like you guys did an analysis of where he's at. And you actually don't have to change, sir. Uh, but in the end, he ended up coming with you guys. That's how you win the relationship in that instance. But then how do you keep it going throughout the life of that client and their family?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is for us to not take on business that we can't sustain. It's really hard to do and we've had to say no a couple times to clients this year saying it's just not a good fit because we know we don't have enough depth in the team to take on and the client. And then also we realize that for the level of services that we provide and there's a level of complexity in somebody's financial situation that merits working with us. Anybody that comes to us will help and will say, okay, we might not be a good fit, but here's another way you could go. But I think for us, it's really just about being very selective on who we work with in the sense that we can't take on work that we can't maintain. Because we've lost maybe one or two clients. I've lost maybe one or two clients over 15 years and it hurts.
Mhm.
So you don't want to, it's like heartbreak. It really is. So we don't want to take on something that we're just going to end up losing. Or that we can't. So I think that's probably it. But then also just process. If we're nothing, if not process driven, you don't pay a wealth manager to beat the market. You pay a wealth manager to create process that is aligned to what you want and to implement that process every single time to the best of their ability. And if you follow process, then everything else, in my opinion, will be taken care of. And so that's for us in terms of process, how often we talk to clients, how we invest portfolios, how often do we look at our investments, how often do we make changes, under what conditions. All of that is like really clearly defined and set up front. And then we don't let anyone down because we've told them they didn't have an we didn't just say, oh, everything's going to be great. Just come with us and we'll take care of you. And we're just like, here's what we're going to do for you. And then we do it. So that's how we look at it. But it's predominant. It's what you're telling me is not a story I haven't heard before.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I guess just is what it is, but you're the receiving end of it. You're like, oh yeah, this is not fun.
Oh
So,
yeah. No, not at all. You're paying big money for a service. You want to be served.
and in that chapter, you're like, you have these lists of questions that you tell people to ask their advisor, like, how are you getting paid?
Yeah.
How else are you getting paid? Because
Oh,
I have no idea why people get paid.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So that's really key too. Yeah. So we could write an entire book on all the way that some advisors or some of these major firms get paid. The hot mutual fund, we don't really use mutual funds unless we absolutely have to. Sometimes it makes sense. For instance, maybe we want to get involved in a very tight market or a very high risk market. You might
Cannabis
buy,
or tech or whatever it is, right? Do
like
you put
say,
those into those?
say we wanted to buy high yield or junk bonds for a client. Like, right, maybe it makes sense to buy. Oh, I'm not going to go around and pick junk bonds. I'm just going to buy a fund for them, right? Because I want to share that risk. But by and large, we don't. But like all of these firms, like some of these funds have like revenue sharing with, we don't do revenue sharing with our funds. And then even like these major firms are charging platform fees to let these funds come on, and then they'll have mutual funds late of the month. And you're like, okay, what did they pay for that?
Mhm.
And then we don't, as a general rule in our firm, or small boutique firm, there's 5 of us, is we don't accept dinners and go out for meals and go to baseball games and stuff. We like avoid that stuff.
From the funds who are trying to court your business.
Yeah, because we just don't use them. If we truly use a fund day in and day out, we want to go out with them and find out what's going on in their fund, but try to avoid the boondoggle type of stuff. So so if we can really just trim down how we're getting compensated and clearly tell them this is how we get paid, and this is who pays us, I think there's a lot. That's the way every industry should be, right? I would imagine that's the way I want it to be. It's not, then,
Yeah.
but that's what we aim for as much as we can. Yeah.
So I believe when we first spoke, I think you told me that you even help your clients with their physical and mental health as well, because that's just as important as the financial health. Am I remembering that correctly or am I wrong?
Yes. In some ways. Yeah. Let's dive into that some more. Yeah. I'm going to dive into that more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Look, nothing is in isolation, and money is just like, money is just a great platform to discuss other things that are going on in somebody's lives or to find it. So when we're working with a family, multi-generation, and this isn't with everybody, right? Like some people just are like, hey, we're just here to invest and that's fine. And
Sure.
there's no complex needs. But there are some where we're working with multiple people, with the family. There's some type of conflict and we want to resolve this conflict. We have facilitators on staff. One of them is a licensed therapist. Is she practicing therapy? No, but she's informed with that to see, hey, what's happening right here? What's going on? Why are we at an impasse as a family? And if clients with you can imagine a situation where somebody family has a substance abuse issue. Now, if you talk to any financial advisor, they're like, oh, I know someone who can help your family, and they'll send them off to see that person. We would also do that, but we'll also want to state in, if we're managing the overall relationship and facilitation of the family, we want to see how that progress is going. And so while we're working with all 3, 5, 6 members of the family, we have one person who's in the know and helping this family get from point A to point B. And the point A to point B might not be our entire relationship, but they might come in saying, "Hey, we just want to really figure out who our family's going to be in 5 to 10 years, and what types of things do we have to do now to prepare ourselves? What types of governance, what types of rules?" And some of it may involve coaching, physical coaching or health coaching, emotional support. And how do we find the right professionals either to bring in or to work and help coordinate that care? Where we'd like to get to, but we're not there yet, is adding physical longevity doctor. And it's something I dream is having a longevity doctor on staff, but we just don't have we're not ready for it. We'll be ready when we're ready. Yeah.
I like that. I like that perspective because sometimes like I find myself getting, I like I'll wind myself up of, I don't have this or that, and you're right. It'll come to you when you're ready for it. And I've had to like settle myself down, just realize that if it's not here, it, it'll come. But you just
Yeah.
you have to be prepared for it because if, say it comes and it happens right now and you're not prepared for it, you're gonna ruin that opportunity or whatever it is that
Yeah.
you're so hoping
Might not
for.
even see it. Might just pass you right by.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So let me just say something right here. So what we're really talking about is the name of our firm is Conscious Wealth. But what we're really trying to do is expand this idea of wealth. It's not just how much money you have in a bank. If you don't have emotional health, then what good is it? Right? If you don't have physical health, like when I was living in Miami and have been down there, we have an office down there, and you see so much substance abuse and so much addiction. And every day I would just think to myself, whenever I thought of it, thank God I'm not addicted to substances. What would all of this be if I didn't have the freedom to wake up and enjoy my coffee, my own little substance? But it's enslaving and it's terrible. And so then there's physical health. We talk about the man of perfect health has 1,000 wishes, and the man of ill health it has only one wish. And so it doesn't matter how much money you have. People give up all their money to be healthy. And so like expanding this idea of wealth to encompass our community, our physical health, our emotional health, and our financial. And then why wouldn't we help serve that if we're the advisors to the family? Why wouldn't we facilitate when needed? And that's how we've built this practice and continue to evolve. We're growing and learning. Yeah.
That's great. Like awesome. Yeah, I get up. I did not want to go to the gym this morning, but I knew that if I didn't, that the rest of my day was going to be thrown off. And that's something that has always been really important to me. 'Cause if I don't get a workout in, I feel it for at least the rest of the day. If not,
Oh man, you're at the right spot. That's where I got to get to. Yeah. Yeah.
it means getting up at, let's see, I got up at 4:45 this morning.
Yikes. All right.
It's not, that part is not fun, but
Sounds
if it was
bad.
easy, everyone would do it, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you then help your clients think about and what the legacy of creating, is it philanthropy? Like, how do you help them distribute and help them in their well-being to maybe empower others to do great things as well through the gift of wealth that they've either earned or been given or inherited?
Yeah. So I like to think of it on a spectrum, and it's sometimes very polarizing. Like this idea, I'm going to give all my money away or I'm going to keep all my money. I'm going to afford it or give it all to charity. And what happens is that people just get stuck on, well, I'll just keep it. But there's all of these things along the way that we introduce to a client to allow them to see other things. We could gift to your children now some money, see how they handle it, work through that. You can, a lot of things we're seeing right now is helping kids buy their first home. And so that's something we can see. But we could also talk about, we could really look at what type of business you're running. Is your business simultaneously positively impacting society? And it doesn't have to be some great, enormous impact like, oh, we're saving the climate, solving for global warming.
Whales that are, yeah.
how about we just pay our clients, our employees really well and treat them like human beings and really
Hmm.
invest in culture? There's real value in that. And that's somewhere between hoarding all my money and giving it all away. And then there's different types of investing and the impact investment type of space as well. And then we can talk about lifetime giving, and then we can talk about giving when you pass. And so we try to explore that whole range so that people don't feel stuck. If you feel like it's binary thing, give or keep, um it's paralyzing.
I want
So
to share a quick story
please.
that I um, just happened this week. So I'm renovating a building here in Cincinnati, and like it was a shell. I bought it. So we're doing everything from the studs out. And I've got guys there working this week, and they're putting subfloor down. And it was like 7:30 or something PM. And they're still working. It was dark. It was like, these guys are working so incredibly hard. And I'm obviously paying them to do the job, but I was like, man, I just gotta like give them each $20 just additionally to just say thank you to it. And I I shared that story with my daughter because like $20 for me, or 40 in this case, it's not going to make a world of difference in either one's life. But I was like, hey, I just want to show you a token of gratitude and appreciation. And here you go. Because for me, in how I practice business, like you're just talking about, I'd rather be known as somebody who does the right thing versus driving the hardest bargain and getting the last dollar from myself. Because my dad said to me, he said to me one time, he's like, you got to get one. And it's
Mhm.
like that same, I guess, mindset. I guess,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I like your dad's expression. That's neat. Yeah.
you know, he's a good guy. He is a good guy. He's still around. So it's,
Good. Good to hear.
what else? What else should we talk about? I feel like we've covered a lot of our topics here. Is there anything else that I've missed that you want to cover?
We are so proud of these cards. I don't know if it's showing up on a screen because I have a blur and I don't
Put it a
know it.
little closer, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, yeah, we're so proud of them that send you guys a link. We'll send you and your team a link that any of your listeners can download them. They're really designed to be around the kitchen table or with your colleagues. And they're just cards with questions asking to start thinking about your relationship with money and your greater sense of wealth and start redefining wealth. I think that's what, yeah, if we're really looking what we're trying to do out there is to expand a definition of wealth and to let go of any definition we don't need and create space for joy. Because it's like short, the word that's short. I think for myself, my life is short, probably at least halfway through it. It's statistically. And I have so many things to be happy about and so many reasons for joy. So how do I get rid of any obstacle to that? And how do we help other people do that? So we'll make the cards available to you all and then for download of and you can always we give away the digital copy free and they can always buy the physical cards if they love them.
That's great. Uh,
Yeah.
awesome, man. I'll put it in when I post the episode. I'll put it in the comment right below
Okay, great.
so everyone can find that and have it. And I'll put it in the description as well. Heck yeah, man. Well, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Brandon,
you.
I really appreciate your time. And I guess, what is the best way for somebody to get in touch with you if they're interested in having a conversation?
Our website's Conscious Wealth. So you can go to the website or my email is brandon@consciouswealth.com. And yeah, we welcome any types of questions or conversations or we love to hear about people's first money memory. So you can always just share it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Brandon, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Thank you. Talk soon.